Hi everyone. So this is Mrs. Neal. When we are taking my class in the classroom, we would go over some safety and sanitation information. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of that with you right now. In my classroom, we have these large white dough boards that we use to put anything dough related or bakery wise on instead of putting anything that we would cook. And when we are using it for dough, we need to make sure that we flour it down a little bit so that there isn't any sticky that happens with the dough. When you put the flour on, you do not want to put your fingers into the shared containers that we use throughout all our class periods. So you should be using some form of utensil, like a spoon or a measuring cup. And you always want to put a little bit on first and add it as you need it, because once it goes onto the board, it cannot go back into the container. Another thing, I don't allow phones in the kitchen when you guys are cooking because the phones tend to carry a lot of bacteria, up to 10 times more bacteria than even most toilet seats. So we don't want that when we're cooking. We had drying mats in our classroom. So when you were done scrubbing your dishes in warm soapy water, rinsing them off with the warm water, and then letting them sit for a little bit to dry, we would have these gray rubbered drying mats. And in order for them to collect the water, the rib side needed to be facing upward when they're on the counter to catch the water. And then at the end of the class period, you guys would dump them into the sink and put it so that the rib side was facing down so that it could dry by dripping. When you guys are in the kitchens in the classroom, you'd be wearing aprons. And if you ever had to leave to go to the bathroom, if you had to leave the classroom for any reason, you would want to take your apron off before you leave your kitchen. So whenever you are about to leave the kitchen, you would take off your apron. Now, I would check you off at the end of a class period before you leave for the day. And so you would want to keep it on until you got checked out. That way, if there's anything else you still needed to do, you still have your apron on and you wouldn't have to put it away. When you're in my classroom, we normally use one drying towel and one wash towel. That way we don't go through a bunch of towels and create a lot of laundry. We should only need one of each. And if you end up spilling a bunch of water on the floor, you wouldn't want to use the towels you use for cleaning your dishes. You'd want to use either paper towels or mops so that way it can be disposed. When you're working with a recipe, you always want to make sure that you're reading the directions first and then adding the ingredients when they're called for. The reason why the ingredients are listed at the top is just so that if you needed to go shopping to get what ingredients you needed, you know how much and what you need in a quick view versus having to search through directions and finding the amounts you need. But when you're actually working and making your recipe, you want to follow those directions and not just add the ingredients in the list that they're located on near the top of the recipe. Some math things you guys get to learn with recipes is fractions. And if you don't have an eighth of a cup, some recipes call for an eighth of a cup of something, and you might not have that measuring cup available, you can use half of 1/4, since half of a fourth is 1/8. Remember, the lower number in a fraction, the higher it goes, the smaller the amount is. Okay, so whenever the denominator is higher, it means that it's a smaller size. All right, another way of measuring an eighth of a cup is 2 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons also equals 1/8 of a cup. All right, and if you were in my classroom and you have any misuse of equipment or messing around in the classroom, you would lose use of the tools and possibly working in the unit of the kitchens. And depending on that severity, you could have potentially gotten SRC for it. So it's not safe to roughhouse in a kitchen. There are a lot of tools and equipment in there that can get damaged and you can get hurt from. So you want to make sure that you're working safely and managing your time well in the kitchens. Have a great day.